everyone, to the New England Real Estate Journal and the South Shore Chamber of Commerce South of Boston Summit 2022. This is part two of a two-part series. I want to introduce you to the, I can't see the top of it, Courtney, so I don't know what is that, the 2030 of the South Shore Chamber?
Yep, we'll talk about it later. We can just
Okay.
rolling.
And this is the what the chamber has in the their EDC. What you do in the EDC? Okay. Here are some updates of our events that are coming up for the New England Real Estate Journal. Main new developments in construction on May 25th, and our NEREJ Cannabis and Construction and Facilities on June 16th. I want to thank our sponsors. Platinum sponsors: Atlantic Mechanical Contractors, A.W. Perry. Our gold sponsors: Ellis Realty Advisors, Local Leads 365, Rockland Trust Bank. Our corporate sponsors: George Washington Toma, TV and Appliance, Inspired Technology, Cape Cod 5, Margot DeStefano, they changed their name, Architects, Northmark, US Pavement, Fox Rock, Haynes Group, and Platinum Partners. There I am, Rick Kaplan. I'm the host of the NEREJ NYREJ podcast. You can find on Amazon Prime, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. And here is our host for the day and speakers: Ryan Bristol, Bristol Brothers Development, Weathervane Companies; Courtney Beergard, Senior Project Lead at South Shore EDC; and Rick Kaplan, which is me. And here are our speakers on our panel today: Mayor Robert Hedlund, Town of Weymouth; Patrick Andrews, Break Rock Brewing Haynes Group; David Gilmore, Kingston Collection Pyramid Management Group; Alan McDonald, who had unfortunately had to drop out for today; Ed Callahan, Hanover Crossing Prep Property Group; Lisa Berardinelli, I hope I said your name correct, Lisa, Hanover Crossing Prep Property Group; and a few words from A.W. Perry. And now I want to introduce you to Courtney Beergard of the South Shore Chamber of Commerce.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Excited to have a pretty packed schedule for the morning. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes at the beginning and talk about what you can expect to hear today and a little bit about the program schedule. So we're going to kick it off with hearing from Mayor Hedlund from the town of Weymouth, and then we'll transition into some project-specific spotlights and a quick update from Wind Sargent from P&P Bus on kind of some transportation trends he's seeing. So we have a full schedule today. We are going to allow a little bit of time after the mayor's remarks to ask a few questions, but I am going to try and stick to a strict time schedule. If you have more questions, you're welcome to send those to me directly, and I can try and get those answered for you. But we are going to have bits of Q&A interspersed throughout the program, and I will prompt you when those Q&A portions open up. But just wanted to do a quick rundown of what the program is today and to let you know it's kind of packed. We're hoping to get through it with right on time. So with that, I'm going to just take a couple minutes and introduce Ryan Bristol. Ryan Bristol is the Vice President of Weathervane Companies and Bristol Brothers Development Corp. He's a third generation South Shore business owner here and is also a member of our board. We're very excited to have his involvement and energy on the board, and excited to have him here today to introduce Mayor Hedlund. Also very happy to have Mayor Hedlund here today, so thank you for joining us, Mayor. We're looking forward to kind of all you have to share about what's going on in Weymouth. So Ryan, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Courtney. I'm excited to be here, and I would like to first thank the South Shore Chamber and the New England Real Estate Journal for having me. I do have to correct you, Courtney. I am fifth generation, so that kind of segues into we've done about we've been in business for over 100 years in the town of Weymouth. So it's an honor to be introducing Mayor Hedlund today. We started off as Bates Brothers Seam Face Granite Company, quarrying stone over 100 years ago. We actually celebrated that milestone during the height of COVID in 2020. So it was a big Zoom celebration, if you will. So, but that's morphed into JF Price and also LaRusso Bristol, who also operate out of Weymouth. And I am now sitting in our clubhouse at Weathervane with the tavern above me and a golf course outside, sitting next to the 9th hole right now, and 149 homes that we built here. So we're very proud to be part of the Weymouth family, and it's exciting because Weymouth's obviously a town that's leading the South Shore when it comes to re-energizing their buildings through rezoning efforts and such, and prioritizing a more streamlined process, improving infrastructure, and delivering on parks and fields, and all that's kind of happened under Hedlund and his administration. So it's definitely an exciting time to be here in Weymouth. And as we know, the chamber needs a lot of partners and to compete economically, in this region, and that we rely on the municipalities for that. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to Mayor Hedlund, who I'm sure we'll be able to tell you more about that.
Thank you, Ryan. So I guess I'm going to, spotlight. I've got a little bit of an allergy going, so bear with me. Spotlight what's been happening around Weymouth currently and in the recent couple of years. And I'd like to highlight and start with Weymouth Landing, which has been a real success story. If you go back to the mid 2000s, 2005, 2000 to 2008, Metropolitan Area Planning Council got together with the two towns, Braintree and Weymouth, and did a pretty comprehensive study and made some zoning recommendations, which were adopted by both towns. And really on the Weymouth side, that's bearing a significant amount of fruit right now. Just this month, the long overdue and long awaited DeLagus project opened up. That replaced a block of storefronts that had been vacant for many years. We've opened up the Grata building, which hosts a significant retail presence with Fuel America, which is a really great amenity. I happen to play in a men's softball league. I'm still barely hanging on, but we use a new field that's right behind that building. And to go down there in the evening and see new residents, young couples walking their dog, folks utilizing our new library that we just opened up adjacent to the Grata building, which has won design and performance awards, the road work infrastructure that we've done down there, and the new park we built is just really exciting. And knowing what it was like prior to that, it was really a depressed area. So there's a lot of activity down there, and there's more to come. We see that the Coughlin project is underway. Rick Coughlin's old site, which is undergoing a lot of ledge removal, but that is a 28 unit and 1,500 square foot project. We've got a potential application soon. We're reviewing for a mixed-use development at the corner of Broad and Washington, which is the old Western Auto Store where I bought my first 10-speed bike many years ago, and that's a real eyesore on that corner. So we're excited about something happening there. And there's a couple other locations in the Landing that potential developers are looking at. There's some public investment. I mentioned the library, but we did additional public investment in the Landing with the daylighting project, which was part of Weymouth's obligation under the Greenbush mitigation, which was neglected for, I guess, 15, almost 20 years now. We completed that in conjunction with the work that was being done with the DeLagos building. So there's a little bit of public space there. It'll access the Weymouth municipal lot behind the DeLagos building. We're actually, parking's an issue in the Landing, as we know, and we've actually added some municipal spaces behind the DeLagos building. And we created a new municipal lot behind the Grata building that complements the parking at our library. So there is a little additional parking on the Weymouth side, and we couldn't be happier than what's been happening in Weymouth Landing. It's vibrant, it's alive, and it's exciting. So based on our experience there, a few years ago, the planning department took a hard look at our commercial corridor overlay areas, and came up with an overlay zoning proposal for those commercial overlays, sections of Route 3A, limited sections of Route 3A, sections of Route 53, 18, and Columbian Street. They were adopted by the council in a 10-to-1 vote, and got a lot of support amongst the community. Planning did a great job on outreach, getting the message out, and there's been a lot of development that's happened as a result of that, whether it's the former Boston Motel site, which was certainly a problem for the town. It was a significant driver of all of our public safety calls, and certainly an aesthetic eyesore. That's underway. The same folks who did the Aeronaut building on Route 18, which is some of the nicest apartments that you'll see in the town of Weymouth. So that project has been completed, and now they're undergoing work at the Boston Motel site, which is 160 units with 6,000 square feet of retail. And I think I neglected on the DeLagos building to mention that's 7,500 square feet of really prime retail space. And Nick DeLagos is a pretty good commercial operator in his portfolio elsewhere. So we're hoping he lands some very significant tenants there, and we think he will. So there's a whole series of John's Liquors is another example on Route 18, the overlay, number of other projects that we have interest in. So that has been a tremendous success. And what's significant about all of these projects that I mentioned, and I'm going to mention a couple more, but what's significant for us, in addition to, changing the appearance of the town, improving the look of the town, and on the economic development side, it's really created a significant amount of new growth for us. And if you look at our budgetary situation during the pandemic, revenue has been flat in a lot of places. Yes, there was a lot of federal stimulus money, but the state budget picture wasn't the greatest during that time. And we were able to, due solely really to the fact of the new growth that was generated, expand town services, despite the fact that some more traditionally more well-to-do communities around us were dealing with budget shortfalls. So that was a real godsend as a result of that development. We were able to open up Station 2, a fire station in Weymouth that had been closed for a long time. We increased our public safety staffing levels. We implemented free full-day kindergarten. So these are all things we were able to do during the pandemic solely as a result of the new growth that the investment in Weymouth generated. We talked a little bit about public investment. We have obviously done a lot of infrastructure work in Weymouth, whether it be on sewer and water infrastructure. But what I'm most proud of is the investment we've made in roads. Traditionally, Weymouth has been doing, prior to my administration, about 1.2 to 1.4 million a year in road work. We've got that up to an average of $8 million a year. So we're playing catch up. And if you drive around Weymouth, you see a lot of activity on that, but you also see a lot better road conditions around the town. And there's a long story with our parks. I won't get into it, but it was one of the challenges I was confronted with when I came in. Previous administration had plans for a park. They were going to rely on an override to fund the creation of the plans at Level Field in Jackson Square. And I didn't think that was something that was going to fly in the town, a town that had never approved an override up to that point. So we went to work to see if we could fit that into our capital plan, which we were able to. And once we got rolling, we realized we could take that effort town-wide. And we have now, as we go to bid right now on Beals Park in North Weymouth and Iron Hill Park in East Weymouth, we will have rebuilt every park in the town of Weymouth and made significant upgrades with many of them. I mentioned Weston Park and the Landing, Libby Field across from the high school, and the fields at Level Field are really the big three, but we've done every park and created some new parks within our existing debt service structure. Now, I mentioned Jackson Square and Level Field. It's important because the public investment that happened there generated some interest in a very tired village center in Jackson Square. And we're very excited that gentleman, Eric Papachristos, who grew up in Weymouth, his dad operated a diner in that neighborhood. He was excited. He lives in Boston now, but his family's still in Weymouth. He's been a very successful restaurateur in Boston and Cambridge. And I was haranguing him for quite some time saying, Eric, you got to come back to Weymouth and open up in Weymouth. I love your restaurants. Once he saw the investment in Jackson Square, he took an interest in Weymouth. And when the Venetian became available, he made that leap. Not only has he made the leap in purchasing the Venetian, but he's invested a significant amount of money in Jackson Square that runs parallel to the zoning that we are in the process of looking at. There's been a zoning proposal for Jackson Square that is currently before the town council. It's been well received generally by the folks that have attended all of the public meetings on that. So Jackson Square, I think, is poised for a renaissance similar to what has happened in the Landing, and maybe even greater, given the fact that we know who the operator is and what kind of businesses he would like to bring to Jackson Square. So that's a quick overview. I don't know if I'm over my time, but I'd love to take questions, and I could go on a little longer if you want me to.
Yeah, sure. So you did perfect, right on time. If anyone does have questions, I'm going to do a couple of things. You can either drop them in the chat, or you can use the raise hand function. It'll bring you up to the top of the screen, and I'll call on you individually. And in the interim, Mayor, can you talk a little bit about kind of the balance that you're striking between your investment in open space and environmental concerns, and also your investment or working on attracting more development investment into the town of Weymouth?
Yeah, that obviously that's on the minds of people. I mean, people complain about traffic. People complain about the things that we deal with in the metropolitan Boston area. You know, Weymouth is a community that back when the Greenbush and Old Colony debate was occurring, embraced those projects. And you have 3 commuter rail stations in Weymouth and 4 state highways that cut through Weymouth and very close proximity to Boston. So you're going to experience the impacts of being in the metropolitan area and have that growth. I felt as a resident of Weymouth, I think a lot of bad zoning decisions had been made in the past. And I would be frustrated when I would even see, for instance, certain residential R1 projects and couldn't understand how the zoning was that allowed for certain projects that occurred in town. And that was part of what we did in our commercial overlay. We actually reformed what we did with our R1 lots. And we're in a situation now where Weymouth is actually a little more restrictive than Hingham on R1 zoning. And we did that because what we wanted to tell the folks in Weymouth was we wanted to preserve the character that exists, that remains in our residential neighborhoods while we seek the growth in our commercial corridors. Not going to single out other towns, but you know, there's other communities where you sort of have wide open zoning in residential areas, and you'll see a significantly large building next to a single family home. And we wanted to not see that happen in Weymouth. So that was part of what the balance was that we were trying to strike. And we've actually looked at what the environmental impacts very closely. That is why the overlay didn't extend to parts of those commercial corridors, because of what the environmental impacts would be, whether it be, you know, to our watershed, to existing neighborhoods, et cetera. We would have liked to have expanded the commercial overlay further up Route 3A towards the Quincy line, but we didn't have the depth of those commercial areas before they backed up to residential neighborhoods. And we're taking a hard look at our water resources right now, trying to prepare for the future. As you know, that's one of the challenges to unlock the development at Union Point, was to get a water source there. That was incumbent on the master developer. That progress has slowed, so we've kind of jumped in on that. to try to help speed up the pace of that. We're undergoing an MWRA study right now. We've had detailed discussions with MWRA, and we'll have a lot of news on that, I think, in the future. There's a lot of stars that are in alignment that would suggest it's a good thing for the town, with the one caveat of we have to determine what the rate impact would be to residents.
Okay, thank you. All right, I have another question here, was dropped in the chat. How would you identify the town's or region's greatest opportunity for growth and the biggest challenge to achieving economic growth? Town and the region.
Sure. I would zero in on Union Point as one example of what the biggest potential for growth is. I mean, that's the largest undeveloped tract, not only in the South Shore, but metropolitan Boston. Certainly the challenge is resources. You look at what some of the communities around us that are not on MWRA service. And, you know, you deal with water bans, you have sewer capacity issues. We're very lucky that, you know, we have not had to implement water bans in Weymouth like other communities have. We've got a pretty solid resource with our Great Pond and our wells. But it's still a concern with things like PFAS that are cropping up as issues. And I think that for the region is the biggest challenge. We have developers and we have municipal officials approaching us every so often to talk about what potential sewer capacity we could provide our neighbors at times. So I know that from that experience, that's a challenge. So I think that those are the two big things right now.
Okay, great. All right, another one. Any thoughts on the state's proposed MBTA housing regulations?
Yeah, so as someone who spent 21 years in the legislature and the Senate, it's kind of a curious process how that legislation led to be. There wasn't much dissemination. I don't think there was much debate. I don't know what was going on. It seemed as though, from what I understand, it was pretty much done under the proverbial cover of darkness. And there was not a lot of input from communities. And, you know, this is a mandate coming down from the state with really not resources being offered to help us implement those things. And we're still wading our way through it. Our planning department is on a conference call on a regular basis with state officials to try to understand what the ramifications are and the details of that legislation. We have a general idea, and one thing that we're pleased about in this mandate is that the steps that Weymouth took in a proactive nature in creating housing recently in our commercial corridors, some of which are in the zones that are spelled out, we're going to get credit for after the fact. So that was a relief to us, but we're still finding our way through the details of that.
Okay, great. Anyone have any last burning questions for the mayor? Anything else you'd like to share with us?
I think I should probably throw out the one issue that's happening in town right now. There's a lot I left out, but the one that I did leave out that seems to generate a lot of attention every time I do a media update or something, I'm asked about Columbian Square. People don't think that the changes to Columbian Square are actually happening. But great work by our planning department and our consultants, Green International, who brought peace to the Middle East and came up with a plan for traffic signalization that elected officials, residents in that neighborhood, and the merchants especially embraced. And I didn't think it was going to happen. When I came in, it was one of the first challenges we took up. We dusted off a couple of old studies and updated them. And we finally pieced together the financing. It's about a $10 million project. And you'll see construction start very, very shortly this spring.
Awesome, thank you. Well, thank you for your time. You're welcome to join us for the remainder of the session if you like. If you have other duties, please feel free to hop off. But thank you for your time. We appreciate the update.
I'm going to finish my coffee and enjoy the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. So we're going to transition now to the project spotlight portion of the session. But before we do that, I wanted to just share a quick map of the region with all of the attendees. And I'm going to we've been as a chamber working on our South Shore 2030 plan, which is our regional economic and community development plan. And part of that is, tracking what's going on at the local level in our communities, what kind of zoning changes are happening, what kind of development is happening, and what are some of the patterns and observations that we're seeing. So we pulled together this, I'll admit it, somewhat rudimentary map that I thought I would share with you all of the region. And so this is, generally what we would say is the South Shore. Can everyone see my map? Just give me a quick thumbs up. All right. So on the map, we basically call the South Shore Quincy all the way down to Plymouth area. And you're going to hear a little bit more specifics on projects in just a minute. But I wanted to just kind of show you a few things. One, these are our MBTA T stations right here. These are our commuter rail stations. So, I think oftentimes we think of it as a straight linear line, but in reality, it's really more of a Y or a U. And then I just wanted to also pull up a few other things. So here's some of our major corridors. This is Route 3. This is Route 3A. This is Route 18, Route 53, and then Route 123 is probably, more of our east-west corridor. There's a couple other smaller ones, but I just want to kind of give you a map of the transit links. And then I'm just going to go ahead and layer on some development hotspots that we've identified over the past few years. And I'm just not going to be able to zoom in exactly how I want it, but the orange patchwork are different areas of development that we've either seen taking place or we've been, talking to specific developers about, or we've just seen some rezoning changes there. And so a couple of key observations that we've made, and I just think it's interesting to many of you probably have lived on the South Shore for a long time or done business on the South Shore for a long time, but I think it's interesting to kind of look at the region a little bit differently and look at it from an aerial point of view and see where development is popping up. And, certainly there are pockets of development happening, along some of these larger transit stations, but they're also happening along these major corridors and on town borders. And, those are some interesting observations that we've picked up on over the past couple of years. And I thought it would be an interesting visual before we deep dive into some of this project specifics. I think it's interesting to just take a quick aerial view of some major transportation corridors where our public transit stops lie, and then some of those pockets of development that we're seeing. So, this corridor right along here, this is, basically the result of the commercial corridor overlay district that Mayor Hedlund was just talking about. This is, sort of the Jackson Square area. This is sort of, I think, Weymouth Landing up here. There's been a lot of pockets of development along our major corridors, and I just thought it's worth mentioning. I'm probably going to invite Peter to say a couple of words too after the projects wrap up, but I thought it would just be interesting for you all to visually see some of the transportation nodes and some of the pockets of development. I'm not going to take up too much more time, but I thought it might be of interest. With that, I'm just going to go ahead and call on each of the project guests that we've invited to give you an update. And I'm going to start with Lisa Berardinelli and Ed Callahan from Hanover Crossing. Lisa and Ed, I'm going to pull you up here on the screen, and then we'll get going with the Hanover Crossing update. All right, here. So give me just a minute while I'm going to launch your presentation now. All right, Lisa, Ed, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I will start. Lisa and I are going to team up on this a little bit, and hopefully we'll keep our time frame correct. I'm Ed Callahan. I'm the general manager of Hanover Crossing. On behalf of PrEP, I want to extend my thanks to both the South Shore Chamber and the New England Real Estate Journal for the opportunity to update the progress of the Hanover Crossing redevelopment project. Again, I'm joined by my colleague, Lisa Berardinelli, who was our tenant coordinator. Lisa and I have been with Prep Property Group since the property was purchased in October 2016. Prior to that, Lisa and I have been, or had been, at the old Hanover Mall since, I say this with, since 1995. So we have quite a history together. That includes 4 prior owners and 5 different management companies that we've been working with to eventually tear it down and build anew. So just a quick time recap. If you could switch the slide, Courtney, to the next slide. So visual of the property, Route 53 is sort of at the bottom of your screen. From left to right, the new Market Basket is the sort of large light blue box that's on the left-hand side of the screen. And then we are in the process of building what we call the U. So the buildings that are kind of in that pink or light purple shade is the new retail and commercial development that we are building. The buildings that are in the sort of the brown shade are the existing retailers that are still operating at Hanover Crossing. And then in the back corner is the residential development, which is being built, oddly enough, by Hanover Company. I think many of you recognize Hanover Company as they've done several projects in the South Shore and throughout Massachusetts. So just a quick recap, since Prep bought the property in 2016, just sort of year by year. Prep in 2017, we were awarded a TIF, or a tax incremental financing, through the town of Hanover, which is basically an investment by the town into the project, which saves Prep over a period of 20 or 25 years. Some of the property, as we start to value up the property, we save some of the incremental property tax payments for a period of time, and eventually that'll go to zero. But that is the partnership we have with the town of Hanover. From 2018, 2019 was our permitting process. First with Hanover ZBA to permit Prep to adopt the Village Plan Unit Development, or the VPUD bylaw, as an overlay district, along with the mixed use, and allowed the residential piece really to become part of the project. Then Planning Board for the master site plan approval, various other boards, including both Conservation Commission and Norwell and Hanover, Norwell ZBA, as well as the state MEPA certification approval, or the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act. We removed the Peterson Pond Dam, working with the North-South Water River Association, the Mass Department of Fish and Game, and from the federal side, NOAA, including Prep funding. We were awarded 13 liquor license, 10 full serve, and 3 beer and wine through town meeting, May 2019. It was ratified into law by the state legislature in August of 2020. We also received a Mass Works grant. It was approved by the state in the fall of 2020 for $1.3 million to add a signalized intersection at the north entrance closest to Buffalo Wild Wings and the new Market Basket, as well as road and pedestrian access improvements to Mill Street and Hanover Crossing Way, currently known as Hanover Mall Drive, but soon to be changed. Building permits were issued by the town of Hanover for the new Prep buildings in September 2021 for what amounts to about 350,000 square feet of new commercial retail, adding to the existing 250,000 square feet of the existing retails, including Dick's Sporting Goods, Macy's, Macy's Furniture, Trader Joe's, Petco, Panera Bread, and Buffalo Wild Wings. If you could switch to the next slide, Courtney, please. Since 2020, or since March of 2020, which obviously is a key date, and the beginning of COVID-19, I would say unprecedented issues have arisen, specifically the pandemic and severe supply chain issues that, combined with construction and winter conditions, Prep and the Hanover company development persevered through these times, really due to the vision of the development, our relationships with our consultants and tenants new and old. Prep completed the construction of a new 130,000 gallon per day wastewater treatment facility that solely serves Hanover Crossing. The plant replaces the aged and undersized plant and is permitted by the Mass Department of Environmental Protection. Construction, primarily site work preparation, approximately is 80% complete, including new utilities from National Grid, Eversource Gas, and the town of Hanover for our water sources. We opened Chipotle, which was the first retailer to open last year in May of 2021. We did construction from that point on, and then just recently the Market Basket construction of their own 81,000 square foot supermarket with a cafe and a 12,500 square foot MV beer and wine store began in early 2021 in the hopes of opening by year end. Due to some supply chain issues and some hiring challenges, the Market Basket opened to great fanfare on March 11th, 2022, and is drawing nearly 30,000 customers per week. Market Basket is nationally recognized by the Dunnhumby Report as the #3 grocery chain in the entire United States. Consumer Reports also ranks Market Basket as the top supermarket operator in the Northeast. Prep is very excited for the Market Basket opening and the new life it has immediately given the Hanover Crossing project. That's pretty much brings us to pretty much today. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Courtney, and Lisa's going to kind of bring us now into the future. So thank you all. I appreciate you giving me the time to present that.
Good morning. So as Ed mentioned, I'm currently working as the tenant coordinator for the project, and a liaison between the tenants, the ownership, and the contractors on the construction and design approval process. So I'll give you an update on where we stand today. Here is a site plan that we've been sharing for so long, but now it's actually becoming real. So if you've driven by the property, you'll see that we are now fully under construction. So 3 of our 9 buildings in the U that Ed mentioned, the retail that's in between Market Basket and Macy's, is vertical. These buildings are at the rear of the property. So the one right next to Market Basket, that's marked Old Navy, that's our building 3. We're actually turning that over to Old Navy next week for them to do their fit out. And at the back of the property, we have 2 buildings that is flanking the cinema, and they are now currently under construction as well. The full steel is being erected now. And over the next few months, the next phase of the project will be the 3 buildings that surround the Macy's building. So we'll be starting that site work next. And when, we're currently building foundations on the 2 buildings that are next to the Market Basket parking lot. So currently under lease, we have LLB, Old Navy, and National Amusements is building their own building. As I mentioned, at the rear of the property, they'll have an 8-screen showcase cinema deluxe with X+ laser theaters that'll offer a premium cinema experience with immersive sound, crystal clear projection, and a full service bar. And we're anticipating a fall opening for that. And then to the left of the cinema, Ryan Family Amusements is building a 35,000 square foot family fun entertainment venue. And they'll have 16 bowling lanes, an arcade, laser tag, and a restaurant and bar. And they're also going to have a 15,000 square foot mezzanine that will be available for private functions that'll overlook the bowling area. So, you know, construction will continue, and we're looking forward to bringing the South Shore a development they'll love and frequent. So on the next slide, yeah, thanks. In keeping with the live work theme play, theme of our development. In addition to the cinema and Ryan Amusements, Hanover Crossing will feature great food options. We're very excited to be partnering with 110 Grill, Aviva Trattoria, and excited to announce a new lease with Sullivan's Castle Island. And they'll have their first sit-down restaurant and bar here. They've originated on South Castle Island in South Boston and have been synonymous with quality classic beach food since '51. So we're looking forward to those lines. And on our last slide, it gives you a little update of a few of our, that was a drone photo that we took in February. So a lot more construction has happened since then, but we're gaining great momentum. The tenants will now start applying for their own liquor licenses from the ones that were granted by the state. And we'll continue with our shell buildings, and the tenants will build out their own spaces. We're currently working on rebranding the property. We just put up our new pylons on 53 last week, and the state will be changing the signage to Hanover Crossing Way. And then we'll continue with the Route 53 traffic light installation at the Market Basket entrance. That'll be happening in the next few months. And then we'll be repaving the parking lots, adding our new landscaping. And then the Hanover company Ed mentioned will be starting their 4th building soon and anticipating the market rate apartments to start leasing in the fall. And they're building 297 units. And that's our project.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ed. For everyone else who's here at the moment, I'm going to hold all questions until the end of all of our project presentations, and then I will have everyone back up on the screen and you can ask your questions of them. Lisa, thank you for that update. Ed, thank you for that update. Lots of great, exciting things to share, so we're excited. All right, I'm going to call on Patrick Andrews. Patrick is with Haynes Group, and he's going to tell us a little bit about a project that they're working on in Quincy's Marina Bay. So Patrick, here, okay, awesome. And I'm just going to launch your slides here in just a second. Here we go. All right, whenever you're ready. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Did it go too fast? All right, whenever you're ready. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Courtney. And thank you to the NEREJ and the South Shore Chamber of Commerce for inviting us to join today's South Boston Summit. Appreciate being here. My name is Patrick Andrews, and I'm the Vice President of our Hospitality Division here at Haynes Group. We focus on, in our division, the construction and reconstruction of hotels, breweries, and restaurants. So all fun spaces. We started the construction of Break Rock Brewing last year in June of 2021. And after a bit of a brief hold due to supply chain issues and the pandemic, we were excited to see this project move forward. We have been working with the design team and the owner actually for over a year, preparing for the project. And Break Rock Brewing is named after the infamous Quincy stone quarries, if everyone's familiar with that area. And it's located in the heart of Marina Bay, situated right on the harbor, as you can see here in the first slide photo, right on the pier with stunning views of the bay and Quincy Harbor. The brewery consists of a 4,000 square foot tap room space. And actually, Courtney, if you could go to the next slide, it's probably best to, yeah, it's a great front view as well. So the brewery consists of a 4,000 square foot tap room space. Yep, the next slide would be great. And 1,000 square feet of production space, which services the tap room. Let's see. And Marina Bay, if everyone's familiar with the area, has become a real popular destination for restaurants. Residents that live in the area now are able to really experience the full experience of all those restaurants, retail shops, and Break Rock Brewing was a great complement to this area. We were really excited to be able to help get them open last year, and they are now fully operational and, you know, packed every day they're open. Haynes Group, we've worked with several other breweries in and around the area. Trillium Brewing in Canton Falls, Mighty Squirrel in Waltham, Massachusetts. And we really enjoy working on these projects. Who doesn't like beer, for starters? And they really bring a sense of community to the area. And that's kind of one of the uniqueness about breweries. On a grand opening day, you can see children, toddlers, to grandparents, to friendly dogs. It just really creates a sense of community wherever breweries open. Some of the popular trends we're starting to see with breweries now, after starting building a couple of years ago into the brewery market, is outdoor spaces is becoming crucial. From the start of the pandemic, outdoor spaces became widely popular in restaurant areas. And there's no exception to the brewery space. Beer garden is a term that everybody will start to hear, I think, more often now. This space is no exception. There will be a small outdoor space that's in the planning that will be right on the pier overlooking the harbor, which will be stunning during the summer months. And also exciting is the trend in brewery markets is expansion. A lot of breweries that were built 3 to 5 years ago, we're starting to have conversations with either of expanding into larger spaces or actually open up additional locations. So the brewery market is strong, 130 plus breweries in Massachusetts and growing, which is a really exciting thing to see. So I think that's pretty much it on this slide.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the production space where all the beer is brewed right on the facility and served right at the facility in the tap room. And there's quite a good space for gathering family and friends in the tap room area.
Great. All right. Thank you, Patrick. I did drop it in the chat, but we're gonna hold all the questions until the end, and then I'll call everyone back up here. So
Thank you.
David Gilmore, you're up next. I'm gonna just unmute you. All right, hi David, how are you?
Hi Courtney, good, how are you?
Good to see you. All right, I'm gonna pull this up for you. All right, here we go. Can everyone see that? All right, you all set?
Excellent. All right, yeah, perfect, thank you. If you want to just flip to the next slide, we'll just jump right into. My name is David Gilmore. I'm the general manager of the Kingston collection. Been on property here since 2018. And one of the main reasons that I did come on property was to help with the development of the former Sears box here. So Sears closed on this property back in 2008. And, you know, as the mall business was going through, let's call it the retail apocalypse for the past 10, 12 years, we needed to decide what we wanted to do. So we partnered with Tremel Crow back in 2018 to start the development process of the Alexa Kingston. So right now, the Alexa Kingston is 282 units. It's going to be 14 studios, 113 one bedrooms, 141 two bedrooms, and 14 three bedrooms. There will be 29 units slated for the affordable housing market, and that was just announced at the Kingston Board of Selection meeting last week. So that is opening up for applications in May. Couple target dates for the election. The on-site leasing office is scheduled to open. It does say March. It's been a little bit delayed, but it is scheduled to open next week. And Tremel Crow has partnered with Lincoln to be the on-site leasing department. Hard hat tours of the residents will begin at the tail end of April. We are expected to have, starting in June 1st, we're expected to have 50 to 75 units ready to be leased, and hoping that June 1st will be that target date for our first residents. And then by the end of July, we'll be up to that 100 units that are available for residents. Throughout the August and September months, we're expecting another 75 to 100 units to come online. And then the final project completion will be November of 2022. This Trimble Crow did experience some material delays and construction delays, but one of the things that they were able to do was focus on other parts of the project. So one of the big milestones was on July 7th of 2020. We shut down our wastewater treatment plant and connected to the town of Kingston's municipality system, which they just doubled in size. So Trimble Crow was able to partner with us in that and continue to build. So I'm very proud to say that speaking with the project manager on site, they are now a little bit ahead of schedule and expecting the project to be completed at the middle to the end of October. So we're pretty excited about the progress that's going on there. If you want to flip to the next slide. A couple shots that we took the other day of the project. It is going to be resort style living, in-ground pools, outdoor cooking areas. They've got a lot of great amenities, but as you can see, the apartment process and the build out is moving along very swiftly. In the bottom right-hand corner, that is the final building, and they are actually putting the roof on the 4th floor today. Courtney, if you want to flip. Again, just couple other shots. That will be to the right is the main entrance. And again, very excited to announce that all those trailers have now been removed, and landscaping has started to go into place as of this morning. Going to bump to the next. So, cause and effect, right? So we talked about how do we bring retail back to life and take away that stale retail and do something to counteract the retail apocalypse. So one of the things that we've been able to do is partner with a lot of South Shore community residents. Hot Doogie is a new concept that opened up in our food court in November has performed spectacularly. Study Hall 101, the owner, Derek Alton, is a Situate resident. They opened up in the former Waxy space. It's a great concept that Derek was a college athlete, so he loves the college atmosphere. So it's, just like it is, it's study hall for college. And again, great concept. Mochi Nut is a Korean pastry donut. Again, South Shore resident. Minyu lives in Quincy, Massachusetts. So again, just a great opportunity to bring some local entrepreneurs into our center. If you want to jump on. And then, one of the things that we heard from our shoppers, and we really took it to heart, was that whole shop local. And they really wanted us to focus on local merchants and giving them the opportunity to open up in our center. And we've been able to do that. So in the fall of 2021, on the left side of the column, you can see the list of locally owned and operated entrepreneurs that have been able to open up a business with us, whether it's their first shop and they're making the move from online to brick and mortar, or it's their second space. Where, the For Good Vibes story is an outstanding story of two Kingston resident sisters that wanted to open up a venue where local artisans had the opportunity to sell their wares. So they've got a great brand, and Kingston is actually their 3rd location that they've opened. Plymouth Rock Fitness was based off of another fitness center that decided to remove CrossFit. In this, the owners knew that there was still a market for it, and we partnered with them to open this up. We have Delanona Pizza, which is also going to be owned by Derek Alton. JD's Dog Park, we actually posted that on Facebook last night, have gotten rave reviews about their location in Norwell. So it's just another great opportunity. Clover Dilly Candle, I want to just focus on that one for a minute, because one of the things that, we looked at during the pandemic is major retailers shutting down or consolidating a lot of their spaces. And Yankee Candle was one of those brands that decided that they wanted to consolidate. They had a bigger market to sell through Walmart and Target. So we're able to backfill that space with a local candle developer called Clover Dilly Candle, who is major online player in the market and is now going to have a brick and mortar store. So again, just another great story for us to be able to talk about shop local and give these local entrepreneurs an opportunity to take advantage of the downside of COVID. And as you can see, we've had some great success with that. You want to pop to the next slide? The other thing that this has been able to do, along with the residential, is we've decided to redevelop another section of our property. And this is the property that abuts right up against the Alexan apartment. So we are going to create an additional 5 new spaces, totaling up to 8,800 square feet, 20 additional parking spaces. Both of these will have both interior and exterior access to the spaces. And on 2 of the spaces, we have the ability to add exterior patios. I want to flip to the next slide. So this is just a drone photo that we took. So that spot where you can see where the separation is, where we tore up the Sears, that's where this piece, let's call it a power strip center, will be added right inside that Target parking lot. I want to go to the next slide. So these are just a couple renderings of what we're looking to do. So as you can see where Pearl Vision is, we'll have the ability to have a restaurant patio there. And then on the other end, a restaurant patio. And then in the middle, we're looking to bring in some services. So we actually just signed a lease for 1,500 square feet to bring in a local beer and wine operator, which will be a great amenity with the apartments where people can go over to Target, shop, and then grab a bottle of wine and go home and cook a great dinner. If you want to pop to the next one, it'll just show and that just shows what it would look like from the corner where the patio would be. And then any questions?
Great. I'm going to pull everyone back up on the screen here. And I'm going to ask that if you have a question to either drop it in the chat or use the raise hand function. Let's see here. Sorry. In the meantime, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask it of Patrick, actually. And then I'm going to let the other questions come in. But Patrick, can you talk a little bit about, obviously, Break Rock is part of, the larger Quincy Marina Bay community. Can you talk a little bit about what's around the area as far as, is it, it's mixed use, it's residential, are those things that you guys look at? And then can you also talk a little bit about the trends you're seeing in the brewery build out space? So, are you seeing a lot of production facilities or more in person? How have those trends changed?
Great. So in terms of Marina Bay, I don't have all of the data, but there is several thousand residential units, I believe, now currently in place, which is great for a brewery and restaurants, obviously, because it services, its own space in a sense. In addition to the residential units, there are other retail shops and restaurants within Marina Bay. Again, I don't have the specific names of those spaces, but there are several that have been opening year over year, which is great to see in the area. And what's great about, again, back to the brewery, market itself, this particular brewery doesn't serve food. So what's really nice to see is, I was just speaking to the owner, Jay Southwood, of the brewery the other day, in fact, and he was saying that the local pizza place is already overwhelmed with all of the patrons at the brewery ordering pizza right to the brewery. So it becomes this collaborative effort, which happens quite often in the brewery space because most of the breweries do not do full service kitchens. It's kind of a rarity, if you will. So we do see a lot of really great collaboration or cross-pollination between breweries and the adjoining restaurants and spaces in that way. As far as trends, as I said, what's really exciting for us to see is, again, Trillium in Canton, which we built, I think it's been 4 years now, has obviously expanded, multiple times over, both in the production side as well as in the tap room side, with their most recent space in Canton as well. As far as, I would say that probably the number one trend that we're seeing, or the two top trends we're seeing is outdoor availability, outdoor space, being able to have a beer garden attached to the brewery is becoming widely popular. And then as far as the interior side, as these breweries become more popular, which happens very rapidly, there is a high demand for larger production area in order to service that amount of product. Not necessarily always more taproom type space, but we do see more of a need for expansion on the production side, which involves either an industrial type space that can support that type of production.
Great, thank you. Okay, another question here for Lisa and Ed. Congrats on the great project. And we're wondering, can you give us a rundown of how many units there are that are available for leasing? And not necessarily right now, but just generally as a whole, like what is the number of units that you guys have available? Did you share that? I didn't see. Not available to lease, just the footprint itself. How many are in there?
Lisa, you want to take it in terms of each
I believe
building?
we're going to have a total of 50 retailers or 50 spaces
Okay.
available.
Okay.
I think that's
Yeah, and
Alright,
that'll vary in size. Obviously, you got the theater and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's 30 or plus thousand square feet, but we'll have numerous tenants who are 1,500, 2,000, 3,000. So a myriad of sizes and shapes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. All right, David, this question is for you. Has pre-leasing moved far enough along to get a sense of who is likely to move in, and is the proximity to the Kingston T station a factor in people looking at your site?
Yeah, so definitely.
With relation to the residential element, I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely. The MBTA is having a commuter rail station here is a huge asset for the project. We are targeting millennials and empty nesters. We believe that, having the convenience of the shopping center, having the convenience of the MBTA and the convenience of downtown, that those are our primary market.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm going to open it up for any more questions. Does anyone else have a question that they'd like to ask? Okay. If anything comes up, you can email me. Ed, Lisa, Patrick, David, thank you all for your time. Thanks for giving everyone a project update. We're very excited about all of these projects. We think that they're great for the region and for the development within the region, and to keep, attracting different development investment in the region for our economic vitality. So thank you for all the work that you all do to make the South Shore a more attractive place to live. So thank you. And then, I got a last minute question here. Do you find that smaller retail space, 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, more in demand than larger space? That's the last question.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from our perspective. Yes, definitely. When it comes to retail, that 1,500 to 2,500 square feet seems to be the real comfort zone. As you're getting, into the bigger brands, we're looking at 4,500 to 10,000 square feet. But ideally, from that shop local perspective, that 1,500 to 2,000 is a comfortable place for people to sit in.
Ed, Lisa, what's your experience with this?
I would agree with David. I think it also, trying to lease a project like obviously Pyramid or our project here, just from a rent standpoint, you need a myriad of different sizes and whatnot, because you're trying to get market rents, as high as you can get them. And in order to have business be able to afford the overall rent, obviously the size of the space matters. It's not, you have to be kind of unique to have a 4,000 square foot space and be able to pay the market rents. And so, yes, it's definitely a strength of our projects is the smaller retailer and what they can bring to the table financially and from a service and business standpoint.
Patrick, I don't know if you have any insight from the build out side of things, but what are you seeing in the market as far as the size of the build outs that you guys are doing?
Yeah, in terms of breweries, as David mentioned, the shop local format would be, about 5,000 square feet, which what Break Rock Brewing is. It's a great, key size. As you get into more of the destination type breweries, some of the larger groups are looking at more toward the 10 to 15,000 square foot spaces. But I would say, 5,000 square feet is about the sweet spot. or a local brewery.
Okay, great. Does anyone want to say any last words? Oh, Rick. Okay, Rick, go ahead.
Of course, Courtney, you didn't think I wasn't going to ask the last words. No, I was the one that asked the question about the 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. But, you know, one of the things I also was interested in finding out, I noticed that everyone now is building their complex or their retail complex with a multifamily component added to it. Is that something that you're going to see that is going forward is a common factor?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and it's really going to be a limited amount, right? So we don't want to make the mistake of the big super regional shopping centers made where they did, 1,000 apartments, right? Because we know that's a struggle. I think that sweet spot is that 200 to 300 apartment units, and it's convenient. And you've got to look at, as Courtney pointed out on our map, is the location of the South Shore to all these major throughways, and that's a key component to it. And to be all honest, you can see it all the way down 93 as you're going into Boston with the ink block and all those other projects. They're roughly the same sizes. So, I do think it's the future. Some people may frown and say, well, why would you want to live at a shopping center or something like that? Well, it's nowadays it's about convenience, right? We look at the gallon of gas prices. It's about the convenience factor of these residential components to the shopping and mixed use properties.
Okay. Thank you, David. All right, Ed, Lisa, Patrick, David, any last words before we transition and hear from Wynn Sargent at P&B about some transportation trends? No?
I'm jealous that David was able to connect to a municipality sewer system, so.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you all again for your time, for joining us, for giving us updates on your project, and for participating again this year in the summit. So thank you again for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Wynn, you are up next. I'm just going to spotlight you here for a minute and unmute your mic. Wynn Sargent is the chairman of the P&B bus, and also on our leadership team here at the SSEDC, and would like to give him the floor to talk a little bit about some transportation trends that he's seeing in the bus industry, and then we will wrap it up with any final questions from the audience, and you might get out of here a few minutes early today. Wynn, you're on.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Thanks to the Chamber for inviting us. I'll start off with a couple of pieces of, if you're not familiar with what we do, we've been around since 1888. Pre-pandemic, we are a line-run transportation company. Pre-pandemic, 600 to 700,000 people a year riding on P&B. We also have two other companies. We do the Logan Express from the north, and we had a company called Brush Hill, which we plan to bring on later, and that was in the charter business. Our industry got decimated. Out of the 3,000 carriers across this country, they figure that between 50 and 60% of us are gone. Luckily for us, the Route 3 run is a great run for us. And to give you an example, January, we had 11,000 passengers, February, 13,000, last month, 19. And I'm real happy to say that this month, it's been quite a measure of what's going on in society. 80%, we figure we're doing 80% of the business in our region. And as you can imagine, 80% of that business is all going to Logan Airport. And I think that a lot of people go with us because we're reliable. And we have a schedule that kind of meets. If you're looking to take a form of transportation and make multiple stops, to get to your place. That's not what we do. Or maybe 3 or 4 runs. We operate 20 hours a day. Our first run, bless his heart, 3 o'clock in the morning out of Hyannis, 22 round trips to Logan. So as you can imagine, it's been a slow, very slow crawl. Back, when I'm talking about 19,000 passengers, and you say, wow, that's a lot. Pre-pandemic, it was 43,000 people. So we've got a ways to go. So with Logan being so busy, we're seeing a little bit of a creep of people going into Boston, but we're kind of looking for new runs too. The traffic pattern. What's really to our advantages, trains aren't mobile, buses are. And, we keep looking at the east-west corridor run. Is there something for us? One of the surprises, I guess, for us is TF Green is very, very slow. But some of these smaller airports like Manchester and Worcester, I'm not going to say they're ghost towns, but they're pretty close to it because they just don't have the travel options for people. So we see ourselves adapting as the world changes. We have noticed a lot of traffic in the mornings coming out of Boston. We're trying to find out where are these, where are they going? We haven't figured that out yet. So it'll be interesting. The options for people, for private transit are small these days. We think that we can play a major role in being a private carrier on the restructuring of transportation, in our region. So that's kind of basically an overview of where we're going. We're looking for a big summer season, and one of the things we've kind of opened my eyes is finding out where people come and where they're going, and it's all about this Google Analytics, which we really got a handle on. That's kind of it that I can think of. If you have any questions,
Awesome.
Contact us directly or go to the website, what have you.
Awesome. Thanks, Wynn. Thanks. If anyone has questions for Wynn, you can drop them in the chat while you're thinking on those. I just want to take a minute to just remind everyone that tomorrow is our in-person networking session for the summit. It will be at Grill 151 in Weymouth from 3 to 5 p.m. Hope to see most, if not all of you there, and get to see you in person, do a little bit of networking. In the interim, I just want to also thank everyone for joining us for the past session and this session, and listening to what we have going on here on the South Shore. There's a lot of work that goes into planning and promoting economic development in the region, and it's really nice to see so many people interested in getting involved in the conversation. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. All right, Wynn, I have a question for you. What are your projected trends of your ridership?
We think that we're probably going to do this year probably 60% of the pre-pandemic ridership.
Okay.
And that's what the trends are showing to us. Another thing's been a surprise to us. We opened up a Woods Hole run, and we got into that late last year, so it wasn't really a factor for us. We're noticing a lot of traffic coming up from Woods Hole, and we're being told it's because of our schedule.
Okay. Great. All right, Peter, you're on. Where are you? There you are. Peter has a question for you, Wynn.
Fire away.
When you say 60% of pre-COVID ridership, is the data sophisticated enough to tell whether that's 60% of people or 60% of trips? One of the things everyone's looking at is more flex time for Boston work. So people who used to go in 5 days may only go in 3 or 4 days. So when you're projecting that 60%, I'm wondering if that reflects people going in less frequently than 5, or if that's the total number of riders, or are you not able to dig down that deeply yet on those numbers?
So that's the amount of ticket sales, so that's people.
Okay.
For that route. Now, historically, 50% of that was going into Boston, in the past. So we have really kind of had to readjust and reprice out, our service. We have not had any kickback against that or negative. And this one person said, I can't think of a more reliable service than, than this company. So kind of like a change towards people's attitudes about transportation. What I haven't seen yet, and I'm kind of confused by this, is I thought we'd have a little bit of a kick with the price of gas going up, but nothing is pointed out to me that's saying that, that's been in effect yet, but I guess time will tell on that. Because usually the first thing in, in a high inflation economy, the first thing people want to cut down on is transportation. That's the first cost. So we were hoping to see a little bit more of that, but I think that, in the end it was when are really people going to really starting to be going back to work, that 3-day model that you're talking about. And I think that's starting to slowly take effect.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Wynn. All right, I don't have any more questions for you at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap us up for today. Thank you, Wynn, for your insights. Thanks for joining us and just giving us a little bit of tidbits to share with our colleagues about what you're seeing in the industry. I'm going to bring my partner in crime, Rick, back to the screen here, and he's going to take us out for the day. Thank you again for joining us this morning. Thank you for participating in the summit. Again, we hope to see you tomorrow at Grow 151 in Weymouth. Thank you to our speakers today who have shared lots of great information with us. And thank you to all of you for attending. Rick, take us out.
Attending today, I can't say enough about working with the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. They are one of the best, and Courtney is, and I tell her all the time, she's superwoman. She does a fantastic job with this and helping us put together. I can't say enough. So thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Peter. You're kind of Superman too, Peter. So I don't want to leave you out. I want to thank everyone for speaking today. I want to thank you all for attending, and I hope to see everyone tomorrow because it will be great to have that in-person event. Love to see people live, which we haven't done in a while. And Courtney, you wanted to talk about your 2030. Anyone that is interested in finding out more,
go to southshore2030.com.
There you go, 2030.com. And it's our upcoming events for the New England Real Estate Journal. Yeah, hope to see some of you at these events in the coming months. I want to thank our sponsors, our platinum sponsors, Atlantic Mechanical Contractors, A.W. Perry, our gold sponsors, Ellis Realty Advisors, Local Leads 365, Rockland Trust Bank, our corporate sponsors, George Washington Toma, TV and Appliance, Inspired Technology, Cape Cod 5, Margot DeStefano Architects. They just changed their name, so I'm trying to get used to that. Northmark, U.S. Pavement Services, Fox Rock, Haynes Group, Platinum Partners, LLC. And that's me, Rick Kaplan, the host of the NEREJ NYREJ podcast. You can listen on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Spotify. And I want to thank our speakers. I want to thank, again, Courtney and Ryan. And I want to thank Mayor Robert Hedlund of Weymouth, Patrick Andrews of Break Rock Brewing, Haynes Group, David Gilmore, Kingston Collection, Pyramid Management Group, Alan McDonald, sorry he couldn't make it today, Ed Callahan, Hanover Crossing Prep Property Group, and Lisa Berardinelli. I think I got that one right, didn't I? Hanover Crossing Prep Property Groups. Thank you all for speaking today. And I'm going to go out with a message from A.W. Perry. Thank you all. See you all tomorrow. Have a good afternoon.